In the ever-evolving landscape of information, it's undeniable how stories and narratives hold immense power to influence our perceptions and change the way we understand the world. Greetings from Nairobi. As Vice Versa Global, together with Kenya Community Development Foundation, Giving for Change, and East Africa Philanthropy Network, it's with distinct honor that we welcome you to Repositioning Community Philanthropy for Impact through storytelling events at Baraza Media Lab in Nairobi. My name is Brenda Nyambura. Welcome. After a delightful breakfast, the first session kicked off with welcoming remarks and context setting from our partners.
Today's discussion is not only about discussing about community philanthropy, but it's also about rethinking how we tell storytelling for impact and how this actually influences our work to show the significance of our efforts. So let's engage. Let's share our perspectives, let's learn from each other, and after all, when we go home, let's think about how we're going to work together to tell stories that not only inform, but transform.
Wherever we live, there are issues where we live, there are challenges that we may face, even for those of us who live in Nairobi. We could be living in an estate where the challenges around access, the road, issues of water, issues of power. So how can we be able to use our voice, use our collective action to bring change? So as KCDF, we look at how can we support organizations, individuals, communities around their own development. And we hope, as we continue on the journey of storytelling and the impact, we'll be able to draw more resources and attention towards being at the center of it.
Are we able to demonstrate, one, our contribution in the national development process? And one of the ways through which we can make that demonstration is through telling of stories, is by practically showing that this is what we are doing at the community level with the organizations in the grassroots, and this is our contribution. And so, the relevance of the meeting today.
We really need to have an enabling environment where communities in all the diverse groups can engage in a very manner that both the state listens to, respects, but also appreciates the efforts of the civil society, as he has just mentioned. So for us, we look forward to partner with governments, with civil society to ensure there is a very enabling civic space that people can be able to speak freely, people can be able to assemble, people can be able to engage, people can be able to be even involved in the local challenges that are within the communities.
How can stories be now the new narrative of reporting? Yes, we have the templates, but we can say 1,000 people benefited. But what if we have 10 voices from the 1,000? A voice will do more justice than numbers. Then last but not least, Mr. Johnston over here gives us a global perspective of the laws and policies that are in place to make us realize that development work cannot exist alone. Communities need to hold hands, and developmental organizations need to hold hands, and equally, nations need to hold hands.
conversation today is about bridging boundaries, empowering CSOs to design and promote responsive and accountable impact. Right? So welcome to the panel discussion, and I think that is where we will just go at it.
For me, the work I see from the media side is for us as the media practitioners to push harder and just to convince the people in the room and your peers that there are good journalists out here. And as you heard in my profile, I just got I finished my program as a TOT, that is trainer of trainers for solutions journalism. This is a kind of journalism that focuses on solutions, on what is working as opposed to the problems. Some of us do so much work and we don't even upload these things on our websites. So a journalist who is looking for your content won't find it. But one moment you'll have a boardroom scandal. Let's say something happens to the board of Cheza, for example, or something happens and you have an issue with child protection issues, and you will be all over the media. It's because you haven't taken the time to shout about your good stories or your social impact work. So the moment one negative thing happens, I mean, you would help it. It would be so sad.
So basically for us as CSOs, the impact of storytelling is really a crucial thing for us. Because basically when you look at the data and the statistics that we produce outside there, it's key that we produce those data and statistics. It's very significant. But without the storytelling behind it, without giving power to that specific data, making it, contextualizing the data that we give outside there, then there is no meaning that we give to that data that we produce outside there. Because we can be having so much data as CSOs, but without backing it up and giving it power without storytelling, then the people are not able to relate to the kind of data that we're giving outside there. For us also, it's also about being in the feminist space. It's about the continuity of the feminist movements. Just having the women who have been in the space for quite a long time, giving their stories outside there, and for the young people like us to learn from those stories and be able to understand the kind of perseverance that they went through during their feminist movements. When building those kind of movements, is really key for us as CSOs to really get to understand that. And then the other thing is also about visibility for us as an organization. Because as CSOs, when you're able to tell those stories outside there, people are able to easily relate with the work, the kind of work that we do, and understand really what's happening. When you're talking about teenage pregnancies, what is the story behind it? Why are we having so much cases of teenage pregnancy going up? The other thing is also about creating awareness, because with the storytelling, we are able to create awareness of the different kind of issues that we are championing from as CSOs within the grassroots and the marginalized areas that we are in.
Just dropping back to my work experience. If a funder is coming, say Victor is coming to the office, 90% of the time will be, where is your M&E framework? Where is your data? And I think that is where we will have a conversation with Chris, trying to understand what is the nexus between M&E, monitoring, evaluation, what is this learning business that we have to incorporate, how do we do impact reporting, and also as we talk about that, we also talk to the donors. Someone will give you a 1 year, 2 year grant, and they want an impact report. How do we maneuver ourselves around that situation? And what does impact mean for the data side of things? And what does the impact mean for the storytelling?
Right, so in the market we live in, if we are not supporting our communities to be self-sustainable, are we doing them any justice? Are we? No, we are giving them fish instead of teaching them how to fish. And that's what we ought to do. And that's why I'm in this business. So I applaud you all for the work that you do in your communities, but I also encourage you to go a bit forward and teach them how to fish. And today I'll give you a few tips on how to do that. So when you think about monitoring, evaluation, and learning, see, monitoring tunaelewa kizungu, right? And evaluation and learning. But it's very much based on your strategy. It's very much based on the goals that you want to achieve. Without having a clear goal, you'll not be able to say what you're doing. So monitoring and evaluation will require you to have a baseline, right? And then put in activities, put in interventions that will be able to give you some direct results. We know our logical framework, guys. Some immediate results, and then have some mid-term outcomes, and then some long-term outcomes. A lot of us in the global south, we are driven by the where they see your funding requirements, and sometimes we steer away from the goal that brought us into this business in the first place. And I say business, I also mean organization, right? So it is up to us to align ourselves with the funders that support the missions that we do, and not for us to keep shifting for the funder needs. Because you know that saying that says if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. Can you do everything? Can you measure everything? Can you actually, effect change, effect material change, not just change, but material change in anything? No. So you need to know really what you stand for, align yourself with the right partners, the right collaborative partners, the right implementing partners, the right funders who stand for this impact goal that you're working towards, and then according to the goals and indicators be able to learn. So you monitor your progress, and then you align to the impact, you communicate on that impact, and that's when it becomes impact reporting.
So about storytelling, I love storytelling myself. I think I've also done stories with vice versa in my previous work to just showcase what community-based organizations are doing and what is really happening in the community. So, for instance, you mentioned, I think from Polycom, talking about showing teenage pregnancies. We did a documentary with Vice Versa Global in Kilifi because we were having a lot of challenge in advocating for comprehensive sexuality education for young girls and especially adolescents and the access to contraception. So we sat and thought, what can we do? Let's do a story. So we went to the community. So what does this do? It humanizes that data for a donor. So we see that what you're talking about is just not on paper, but we are seeing it's a real challenge that is not scripted, and we are seeing that this is what is being experienced in the communities. So this kind of humanizing data is what is really more appealing to us. The other thing about storytelling, it's a new way of reporting as well. I don't think we need to put pressure on organizations and community-based organizations to write very long reports, whereas they can go and do a story or a video and showcase this is what you've been doing for 1 year, and it's real, we can see it, it's in real time, yeah? So these are some of the things that why we are revolutionizing reporting through taking stories and picking the stories the communities themselves have. This could be through audiovisual content, it could be through what you write and all that. So it's not restricted, it's based on what you're giving us. So these community-based organizations, you go and sit, they'll fake reports, they'll fake numbers, just to make sure that they are pleasing donors. And we know how much time we spend pleasing donors. It's like we're always begging them to give us money constantly. And we want to please them and appear very nice to them and appear that we are doing the best work. But as funders, if you want authentic work, I think storytelling is a new way of capturing this authenticity and the work that communities are doing.
Work that is happening in the new media. Talk of Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and the most recent space for our Kamukonji, the Twitter spaces. How can us, as the development players in the room, penetrate the tantalizing world of the new media? Maybe I'll throw it to the bench for you guys to think through and take that question.
We are living in a very fluid world, and these theoretical frameworks about media, so many bureaucracies, and thinking that media is just in a newsroom, it's in a newspaper, it's in all that. I think we need to get away from that because it doesn't make sense. For instance, like me, sometimes I don't watch news. I know I'll get into Instagram and get all the news I want, yeah? I'll follow Tuko, I'll follow Nairobi Gossip, and I'll get in real time, yeah? So I think we need to move into, to remove all these theoretical frameworks. And this is the problem I usually have with academia and social change. Social change is in real time, it's real, it's not in textbooks, it's not in a PhD. What I would say is let's be fluid in how we think about social change. And people like us who are entrenched in advocacy, it doesn't work like that. I'll take a video, I'll just record. Part of the starter pack for Mandamano was your phone. And we got more videos, real videos from people's phones than what we got from the news themselves, yeah? So I think that's a great question.
I hope we get an opportunity to keep, speaking to everyone in the room and for us to network properly and create the networks that we require to move ourselves and the constituents that we serve to the next stage, right? I think that was our time. Thank you very much, everyone.
Our moderator, Michael Timonah, later on engaged our audience with a short game right before having one-on-one discussions about what they learned from our panelists. As part of the program, success stories from community-led initiatives were showcased. Studies have shown that visual content conveys complex information more effectively, is better processed, and easier to understand.
Everybody sing. We are the children. We are the ones who make a better place. So let's start together. Let's start together. Let's start together. We're singing our lives. Just you and me. Thank you so much. That's Moody Dancers. Yeah. So we are Moody Dancers. We come from Mukuru, from a center called the Moi Hub, or the Mukuru Youth Initiative Hub. Back there in Mukuru, we use art for social change, we use art to tell stories. And we were here today telling the story. I hope you got the story. Yeah, we have seen people giving, we have seen people helping each other, either in kind or even like when you were in the protest, no one asked you which tribe you come from or who you voted for. People were together, and of course, even like before even the protest, during the floods, we also saw the same happening. People were giving and people were supporting. So thank you so much, and have a great day.
What I believe is also this, like we have to go back to the power of communities, and we also have to, I know I'm not Kenyan, I'm not African, but let me just say, I think we can go back to the African roots of storytelling through dance and movement, and not just implement sitting behind the desk in schools. Like, why are we not dancing? Why are we not moving? And why are we not using like traditional methods to share stories and to share knowledge?
So we are here to share, to learn, to demonstrate, to document. But besides that, what next? How do we then transform what we have seen or heard here today into something that we can take home for ourselves, okay? So the session is designed in different buckets. I call them buckets because we are either feeling into it or taking away from it, okay? Bucket 1 is about community participation, and in this bucket we'll be discussing how we can enhance community voice when we document impact. The next bucket is about storytelling and documentation of impact. What are the strategies for storytelling? The third one is about resource mobilization. The last one is about reporting. How do we measure impact?
Let us enlarge the definition of community as we communicate that now new communities are emerging. There are communities of practice, there are communities of geography, there are communities of age, there are communities of theme, anything. As long as there is a build momentum and interest in areas of action, then that is, of course, can be communicated or defined as community.
Bucket 2 was talking about storytelling and documentation of impact, which is very core to the work that we do. And ideally, we were looking at discussing the strategies for telling positive stories and documentation of impact. So we had 8 strategies. Quickly, the first strategy was the ability to develop a nose for impact stories. Ideally, when you go to the ground, when you review the work that you're doing, are you able to scout or to tell a good impact story? Number 2, we talked about data collection and incorporation, letting our stories be backed up by data. Number 3, know your audience. The story that you're doing or the reporting that you're doing, who is your target audience? Once you understand your audience, you will be better placed to know how to package your story. And then number 4, put a face to the story. Let your story be told by the community themselves. Let the beneficiaries of the work that you're doing be the ones telling the story. And then we said, bring out the big picture. What does it mean? And in this we said, beyond telling the story, make sure you answer the question, so what?
One of my colleagues in that group asked that for small or rather upcoming organizations, how do you manage to get volunteers to come in and give in their expertise, being that you are also in a position where you are still resourcing for funds and you're not able to sustain the organization financially. So the answers that came out were that at times you need to focus more when you are building or coming up with the organization. At the board level, ensure the people that you engage are people with their different expertise that actually can support you before you get in funding.
This, we say that we are supposed to go to the community and see what you are doing. You are supposed to be able to measure where you started, the progress, and where you are. Then from there, you'll be able to gauge the impact that you have brought to the community.
Guys, we've made it. It's a wrap. We've concluded the day. I have been Timonah, the Business Development Manager for Baraza Global. And I earlier mentioned that, hey, there's food. We have stir-fried chicken, we have vegetable rice, we have beef stew, we have vegetables for those who don't do protein. We have mocktails. So, guys, indulge, mkule mshibe, and feel at home.
I think today we've shared a lot of things, new media, telling stories, documenting impact, and also mapping out the story that we want to do and the intention that we are telling the story for. So it is my hope that as we go back to our organizations, we will continuously begin sharing more stories in different ways and in ways that communicate both horizontally and to our stakeholders.
A forum such as this, where we have different players within the community philanthropy space talking and sharing with each other, helps the communities themselves to pick on new approaches, new tools, and new strategies that they can use to either fundraise, to tell their stories better, to document their impact. And so this is just one in a series of various interventions that are targeted at learning, enriching the learning, enriching the knowledge within the space.
Many a times we really overlook the importance of storytelling within the works that we're actually doing. When I think about community philanthropy, a lot of organizations, a lot of people within the community are already taking initiative to mobilize resources and meet some of the challenges or address some of the challenges that they're experiencing within their communities. So it is very, very important for us to mainstream and highlight these stories so that we can show the world that it is very, very much possible for change to happen within our communities, and the change actually starts with us.
For me as a young person and the other young content creators out there, I feel this forum on storytelling is very important, as it will enable us to tell authentic stories as well as real stories that are better and very impactful, looking at the real ideas, the real issues that happen in the communities.
It was the most anticipated for event this month, and now you see why. So remember, the conversation still goes on our social media platforms at Vice Versa Global. We'd really love to hear your inputs on the same. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Brenda Nyambura. Thank you so much for watching.